the MASHER strategy. This is a reduced workspace from our normal, like showing you all 5 screens at the same time. Now they are kind of hidden. They're right down here in these tabs. We can actually tab over to them right here, but we've got our 3 time frames. And of course I'm using Enigma, which is such a powerful entry strategy that I can kind of rely less on some of that information, but we've got down to 3 on tonight. How do I use the MASHER strategy? This is the MACV filtering and sometimes entry chart. It's a bit of a higher time frame. I would call it a mid to low time frame because it is not really a mid. We have a mid time frame. That is what we do our optimizations for at the beginning of the week, and you guys get those on Sunday or Monday. This is just below that, and you're going to get some big plays. If you get a play off of this chart, it's going to be a bigger play, and it'll be starting, instead of maybe a 20 tick trade, you might already be looking at a start of a 30 tick trade. Let me show you how that works. I'm going to go ahead and enlarge this chart here, zoom way in here on these 2 pivots right up here. So we were able to take this trade over here late in the afternoon. Well, I like to have this a bit zoomed in like this so that I can see the hills. What am I talking about? The hills. These are the hills we're talking about. So I'll teach you those in depth in other videos, but how do I execute? That's what we want to focus on. Execution is greater than analysis. Remember that, write that one down. Execution is greater than analysis. A lot of people get analysis paralysis, a lot of analysis. Oh, I've analyzed this and I don't think it's going to do that. Pivot. What I like to do on a MASHER strategy is find a pivot where we had a turning point. Okay. Occasion this is kind of important to this specific strategy. Remember, there are sections of the day. You need to be aware of what section you are in. Each one of these sections, you need to be looking for the pivots that are applicable to this section, pivots in this section, pivots in this section, pivots in this section, and they may be related or completely unrelated, but we're going to reference back to that. So just keep that in mind as I start showing you pivots and how we're going to choose which ones we're going to use with our histogram hills down below at the 9 a.m. over here on the left, because I really don't want to do anything prior to that. 9 a.m. is kind of where I mentally want to start taking trades in general. I'm going to press F7 for the vertical. So I'm going to draw one right there. There's the beginning of one section. Now, starting right here and looking to the right, I want to try to find some primary pivots. Now I'm going to exaggerate these by pulling the chart in a little bit and making some slight adjustments like this. And you need to learn how to do this. Make sure you guys have watched my videos on how to play with and adjust your charts so that the visuals, again, everything we're doing is visualizing price movement. Let's find a pivot. There's a big one right there. One kind of stands out to me, doesn't to you? So I'm going to draw a vertical right here, F7 right there. Now, again, during the daytime, 10 a.m., I want to mark that pivot right there. This was I wouldn't say, it depends how you gauge this. So would you use the word major? I would. For this time frame, this is a major pivot point for this time frame. Does everybody understand this? This is a 9 algo bar. This is quite large. You'll start to get to figure out how big these are with practice, because again, what we do inside of algo bars is we take away the time element, and now you get to see more structure, which is important, especially when you're using order flow, because we want to see the order flow inside of a specific series of bars. So this pivot is clear. Now let's look at the drop here. How much of a drop is that? I want you to start to gauge how big these are. So from the top of this to the bottom of the low there, that is actually 305 ticks. Quite a large drop, even though it looks like it's not very much on this chart. It is because of the time frame. Now that's what I was saying, like plays that come off of this area, even a little bit of this is a lot. So let's say that we only caught this first little bitty leg right here. Okay, so how much is that? You're like, oh, I don't know, that doesn't look like very much. So to the bottom of that is 97 ticks. Do you understand why I think it's important? Okay, that is 97 ticks just to that drop right there. Okay. So do I want to catch a pivot on one of these? Yeah. In fact, even on the up move on this little, you might think, oh, that triangle didn't really call some big up move right there. Well, one more time, let's use the measurement from the bottom just to the top of that. That is 60 ticks to the upside. Can you catch 20 ticks out of that? Yes. Can you catch 2 sets of 20 ticks out of that? Yes. Can you catch 40 ticks? Yes. Do you have to catch the whole thing 60 ticks? No. But now I want to mark this location on my histogram down here. Now I can tell from the left hand over here when I've got some pretty high hills. My high hills way over here at 9:16 a.m. I've got a big one right here. But you notice why I'm not going to mark it? That right there, if I look up we really didn't have a major pivot turn right there, right? I mean, that, and now you're thinking, well, hold on, I mean, that's probably a lot of ticks right there. that's very, very small, right? Not really something significant. And again, we're also right here at the open. It's 9:25 a.m. So take that into mind. And that's what I was saying about the whole sections, like divide these out into sections. So this is going into that 10 to 12 section right here. This is going to be a key pivot level. In fact, let's go ahead and draw a little box. And what we want to do is I'm going to mark this. I'm going to press F6 for my horizontals down here. I'm just going to click on the top of this little hill right here. Okay. Now that's going to draw me a horizontal over to the right. And what I want to see is I basically just, without even looking at the chart, I want to look right here to see where the next location is that touched that hill. Okay. So now if I look up, what do I see? Do I see a down move? Yes. Do I see a divergence there? Yes. Can I get some ticks out of that? Well, yes. Let's find out how much can we get out of that. So from the top of that to the bottom, that is a 70 tick drop. You see why it's kind of significant? And I can get that from, this is the MASHER strategy. The MASHER strategy is actually one of our members. His name is MASHER. And I kind of like the fact that, I don't know, I think about these hills popping up and mashing them down. So it was a great name, and special shout outs to MASHER in our crew who kind of started to visualize this and started using this for one of his filters on the high time frame, particularly high time frame. Doesn't mean I don't want to use it as a filter in that I'm not going to take a trade if it's against this or anything like that, but I would call these actual trade opportunities for bigger plays. Now, again, do we have to catch bigger plays all the time? No, we can do quite fine. We have doing 10, 15, 20 tick targets all the time. You know, me now with Enigma, I'm doing a 20 tick target plus a runner with, I mean, Enigma is just insane. It's like I said, it's a whole animal all in of itself, super combo kill type of strategy. Now, let's move on here to the afternoon where I was taking trades. So right here is about, here's noon, let's draw a vertical right here. Okay. Now, here's another interesting pivot, and that's a big one. We hit it again. Do you notice that the one from the morning right here into the afternoon, that one right there, now we look up, do we get a nice big pivot turn off of that right there? Yes, we do. I want you to recognize why this can be a very cool and important thing to do, and why this is a really neat way to play this. Now, is it 100% of the time? No, but when it does play out, and I'm also not taking the risk off of this chart. Again, I do not want to take the risk off of this chart because these are, you know, big rewards, but I want to take the risk off of the lower time frames. Always keep that in mind. You guys should know that from our strategies already, but these are higher time frame opportunities for us to take. Okay, so let's take a peek at how this one went. How far could this one have gone from the top with a triangle divergence? Remember, that is a divergence on the ultimate OBOS. And there it is. That is a 144 tick drop off of that. Now, yes, obviously you could be like, oh, I could take this as a play. You could, but let's look at the stop risk. So your stop risk is behind a triangle. Why I don't like to just take these just naked off of these by themselves. Let's look at the risk level. So if we enter in when that fires to the top of that, that's 33 ticks. Now, again, really up to you. If that's appropriate for you, fantastic. For me, again, my max is 25. I really don't want to take more than a 25 tick stop. So 33, a bit much. Now we could kind of solve this a little bit if I went down and I adjusted this to a 9 algo bar. So I'm going to duplicate this chart and show you what this looks like on an 8. So we go one level down, duplicate. And depending on the market environment, like right now, the market's super volatile. So I mean, I can use that higher time frame. But when the market starts slowing down, I want to come down here and use an 8. Okay, so now down here on the 8s, let's see what our risk is down on an 8 for one of these triangles. So let's look at this one. So we have a clear one here. Here's a clear one up here to measure. So here, that's only 27 ticks. Okay, so now I might take a trade off of this, but I need to go, I mean, it's a max risk here, but in the reward, what's a reward layer off of one of these? If one of these suckers runs, right? So your risk is this, your reward is this. Okay, here's another one. So risk, sure. How about this one? Risk, reward. Now, do we know it's going to go that far? No. What if it's one of these? You catch this one right here and it's like, it goes, 10 ticks and then comes back down. Oh, that's a bummer, right? So we don't want to just take every single one of those. Here's one right here, did not work, right? These are not 100%. So what we want to do is combine this with the masher and some other entry strategy on a lower time frame. Let's go back to our 9s that we were using earlier today. So now we come back to this guy right here, and let's see how we could have played that. Remember, we had marked this little hill, and basically the focus of the masher are the little hills. Okay, whoops, I didn't want to go to that one. I wanted to go to this one. This right here. Boom. Now I might go, well, what about this one right here? This one came in. Well, could we get something out of that? Yeah, remember, that was still 70 ticks. So this one was still okay. Now this one, let's say we touch in right here. Do we have anything up here? No, there was no turning point. We didn't get a triangle, nothing. So again, you can't take every one of these hills, but if you get a hill set up and you have something on a lower time frame, we want to apply it. And that's why I'm saying you want to combine this with other things. I'm not telling you to take the masher strategy as an entry strategy. This is not an entry strategy. This is an entry opportunity to take an entry strategy on a lower time frame. So now we got this one right here. I definitely want to mark this one right here. F7, we come back, we touch that hill. I'm watching it, I have plenty of time to see it. I want to be looking for a short opportunity around this location, and I want to take it on a lower time frame. And of course, what's our drop? 144 ticks. We talked about that one. Now, can I do it again? Did I get to use it again? Well, yes, I did. Now, as this went up and we touched it, you're going, well, do I just take it right as we hit the hill? No. Can you see how sometimes the hill continues on up? Okay, past that. So I don't want to just enter in. Because, oh, we touched the line, which is where we touched the line right here. Okay, and this sucker keeps going. And how far did that go? From there all the way up to the top, that went another 75 ticks. So again, you don't want to just take this naked, right? But I just want you to see how many times these play out. Now we see this one pivoted. Now this one also, it made a major pivot, but it's higher. So I also want to come back, and now I want to mark this one. Let's press F6 to the top of this hill, because did we have a turning point right there? Yes, we did. Do I have a box I can do right here? Yes, Control C, Control V. Let's drag her over. That one also was one. So I want to mark this one right here. Press F7. Boom. Draw down right there. Boom. There's the top of the hill. So over here to the right, do I want to take a short opportunity as this one hits up top? Yes, I do. How does it play out? The very next one. This is better when you're doing these side by side. The very next one. The ones that carry over, again, dividing up by section. Was this in the same section of time? Yes, we're in the end of day. So we've got those sections. Remember, reference back to our sessions per day. This one right here. Okay, we know we've got that big end of day session where the pivots are related because they're inside of that session. Let's look over here to the right. Do I have an opportunity? Yes. Doesn't look like much, but remember what I said on this chart, it is. That's 70 tick drop right there off of touching the top of that hill. Once again, boom, and we get the drop. Also correlated with a triangle. This is what I really like. This was something we added later for those ultimate obos divergences. Okay, 70 tick drop right there. Now we can play the other side of this too. I know I'm showing you the short side, but we can also do the long side. So pick an area where we went, we had a big move to the upside. Okay, we had this one right here. So let's press F7 first. So down here, we have this one, F6. So this one, let's carry over here to the right. Here's our touch. Did we get an up move afterwards? Yes, we did. Can you see it? Of course you can. You guys are smart. Control C, Control V. Move that over. Of course you can see it. Press F7. Boom, we had one right there. Now again, we start to draw a whole bunch of lines here. You don't have to draw a whole bunch of lines. I'm just showing you example after example here. I like to clear these after I've taken plays, but if I need to visually represent it for you, I'm showing you how many times this works out on your charts, even on just some random day like today. Here we go. So again, there's our touch, there's the pivot. Did we move up? And remember, this came from information just from prior. Now, a normal levels player, right? A levels player is stuck over here doing this. He's like, let's see, guys, see, I got a F6 right here. Huh. Well, there's my support right here. And listen, support resistance, it's cute, but it's stupid. Stop. Just stop it. Okay, so we look at the internals. Do you see how we can determine that that pivot point now correlates with this pivot point? But do you see how we can use what you would think of as support and resistance kind of thing? Because you're like, oh, where's the support? I hate to use that term down here because it's not really, but we're looking at another level on a histogram. Now we can figure out that this pivot correlated with the up move from, this was this morning. Yeah, 9:10, it was 10:45. At the end of this turning point, was the same one that picked this move to the upside, which, and let's do the measurement on this. I don't think we've done a measurement to that direction. So let's see what that move is. That one is 178 ticks. Are you starting to feel it? Are you starting to catch on how cool the MASHER strategy is? Now we get this set up. I see it. I want to take this play, but I don't want the risk of this. Can I get a lower time frame play? Well, let's find out. Okay, so let's look at this in both directions. We obviously had longs favorable on the day. Now, it doesn't show right now because we're after hours, but during the daytime today, we had longs favorable. And of course, we have our MACV filters that are showing up over here. And at some point in the day, at that point, we would have had green here telling us to the long side, and we would have had longs favorable. So you got two things telling you that. So we're looking for the play, but which one do we want to take? Well, we also had our cadence going on. We were waiting. We had our multiple cadence scenarios. This is, I'm not going to go into that strategy here today, but you guys know it. If you guys have been following my live streams, you should know what this is. So can I take this with confidence? Can I take this to the long side with confidence? Yeah. Now, how does this correlate with the MASHER strategy? Well, remember this right here? There it is. That was the box that we had picked out from before. You see? Now I come over here. What's my entry? Right here. What's my risk? Bottom of the Enigma. Did it go all the way there? No, right here. So we enter in right here. Our heat, the heat that we took, was from there to right there. Not enough to stop us out. And now we get our run. Did we get our 20 ticks? Yes, remember, I'm going to take, with an Enigma entry strategy, I'm going to take 20 tick target. One. And then runner. And I'm going to hold it until what? Until I see an opposing signal. So this play right here, off of initiating, going, yeah, I've got a bigger play. I can take that with confidence, more confidence. Because again, not every Enigma is going to succeed. So you need to try to filter for that, right? So now we have this beautiful opportunity coming from this, plus our cadence. We like to add things together. In our video game, I've told you guys, we add things together. Real simple. But if I'm starting from this, I get my pivot point from here. I get my risk level off of here, but my reward from here. Do you see how we reduce the risk by increasing the reward opportunity? So here we go. I enter in right here. Let's get our measurement. So I enter in on the green. I'm exiting when the red signal shows up. That is 58 ticks. Not too shabby. Multiply times contracts, etc. You know the drill. Again, multi-$100 trade. Could be $1,000 trade if you got 4 contracts. Yeah, it's a pretty darn good play right there. All right, let's move to the next one. So now that was to the upside. What about the downside? Remember we said, hey, we had both of these pivot back to back. We had this one, then we also had this one, right? Okay, so how did we play this one with less risk? Because remember, otherwise I've got to deal with a 33 some odd tick risk if I'm trying to play this off of purely a triangle divergence, right? Okay, so entry came, and what did we see? This right here. We got a moonshot. Now, this one would have failed, but we weren't ready for that yet. Did we see some big delta there? No. Did we see one right there, though? Yes, we did. Did that correlate with something that we can play off of? Yes, it did. What's our stop? So our risk on an entry like this is how many ticks? We enter in on the cross. Stop is at the top of the cross. What did we risk? We risked 10 ticks. See that Y value? Okay, that's our 10 ticks. 10 tick risk. And now we take our drop. We're looking for our 20. Now off of a cross, I'm looking for usually 15. Okay, usually I'll get a 10 and a 15 in a runner. So we're getting a 10, a 15 off of one of these. Again, I do not just play these for some gigantic, I'm not getting a 20 tick trade off of this. This is not an Enigma. Now off of an Enigma, yes, I would play that. I would play that heavier on Enigma for 20 and then runner, but off of a single, even though here, this is a power, this is a 19.2, and you're going to start to recognize like how these numbers adjust. Remember, over 18, I change the color, right? So this is a level 19. Those of you guys who have been around Alpha Omegas, we'll do a whole series around Alpha Omegas, but I take the Alpha Omega entry and I get my 10, 15, and I'm holding the runner. What do I exit on? I'm exiting on the opposing color. What's the opposing color? A green or a blue, which shows up right here. Let's get the measurement on what that is. So if I enter in on the pink cross to go short, plus on the high time frame, and now I'm holding out that position, what do we get on the drop? That is a 61 ticks. Now, that's just, that isn't catching every tick in it, because remember, we saw it was a 72 tick drop, and that was measuring, highest pivot to, lowest point there. You're like, well, how did that correlate, Vinny? I thought you said that it was 70. I thought we measured that one 70. I might have getting that mixed up with that one. So scratch what I just said there. Okay, so the drop on that, we exit on that one right there. And look, do you see how our system tells us when to exit perfectly? Do you see why I love our system? Do you see why we game the system like this? We know what they're doing. We can see their action on the charts. We are detecting the algorithmic systems that actually move the markets. We are not the algorithmic system that moves the markets. We are the algorithmic system that fights the algorithms that move the markets. And by fight, I mean giving us the opportunities to ride with them when they are trying to shake us. That, my friends, is the MASHER strategy. That's how I use it. If you guys have any questions, pop them down in the comments. Hang out in our Discord chat room. Catch you guys in the next one. See ya.